You can't take my gun, because this chick is packin'. I'm Anne-Marie.
I'm Janique.
I'm Jan.
And we're going to talk about our Second Amendment rights on this episode of
PolitiChicks.
Is gun control really the answer to America's crime? I recently interviewed Alan Gottlieb, the founder of the Second Amendment Foundation at CPAC in Washington, D.C.
I've talked to Daryl Issa, and I've also talked to Sheriff Paul Babu. Both of them say that they believe Fast and the Furious is a Second Amendment thing. What do you think?
I know it is. There are no two ways about it. They're both right. The fact of the matter is the administration tried to use Fast and Furious as a way to show that we need stricter gun laws in America by showing guns flow into the system, go to Mexico, come back, and get used in crime. What they didn't think was going to happen was that one of those guns would be used to kill a federal Border Patrol agent and would blow the cover on their operation. But this is all being done to push not just national gun control here, but international gun control through the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty.
Why are liberals so afraid of guns?
I don't know why.
That's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question. People who are anti-gun rights come to it from different points of view. Some of them come to it because they're anti-hunting, they're animal rights activists, and if guns are banned, well, then hunting goes bye-bye. Some of them come because they're people in the groups of, they're anti-national defense, they're not big on defense to begin with. So domestic defense, so to speak, or protecting yourself falls in the same category as, the military budget. They're against that. They're against the right to keep and bear arms. Some of them have been victims of crimes, and somehow they blame the gun rather than the criminal who committed the crime, sort of like they believe the gun has a brain to hate with and a finger to pull its own trigger. And the bottom line is that they all come together between them and a lot of politicians who just like to control people in general. They know what's better for you than you know what's better for yourself. And a media that tends to support them a whole lot creates quite a strong anti-gun movement in this country.
Joining us today is GunChick extraordinaire, Jan Morgan. Jan's an award-winning TV journalist and an outspoken advocate on guns and Second Amendment rights. She's been on countless radio shows and has probably over 100,000 Facebook followers.
Many of them gun owners, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll bet, yeah.
As passionate as you are about Islam, it seems like you're as passionate or more passionate
More so about the Second Amendment.
about the Second Amendment. Why?
Because the Second Amendment is our last line of defense against tyranny. It's critical. And right now we have over 30,000 gun control laws on the books. And many people may not be aware of that, but they're there, and it was never meant to be that way. Our founding fathers felt like the Second Amendment should have been sufficient, and it should. And before we go any further, I noticed in the opening of the show, Anne, you were holding this gun like this. Oh, and let's go ahead and get this straight, too, because Janique was saying, oh, this gun on the set's making me really nervous. And there are probably some viewers watching that are about to have a panic attack because we have a gun on set. This is a 40
And
caliber
you're aiming
Glock.
at me.
Well, but it's empty. I promise it's empty. In fact, let's just show folks that take the clip out, and we're going to rack it. It's empty. So this is totally safe on the set. But what I would like to accomplish today is not only to talk about the Second Amendment, but to make people understand that people who own guns are not owning guns because they're about violence. They own guns because they want to be able to protect their homes, their property, their families. Yes, it's all about preservation of peace. So,
Well, I just also want to say, even though I myself probably would not have one of these.
Hold this, Janique. There you go. There you go.
Even though I probably wouldn't have one of these, I will say that I still want to be able to maintain that right. I mean, just because a person doesn't have a gun doesn't mean that they want to lose that right, nor should we.
No, because the bottom line is criminals, thugs, and the federal government will always own guns.
Yeah.
So
the bad guys have them.
Surely, the people out there who are gun control advocates, surely you do not want to take away the rights of law-abiding citizens to own guns just because of the irresponsible actions of a few people. It's just, think about the logic of that. It's not right. It doesn't make sense. And here's something you will not hear on the news, okay? Every time there's a shooting, you hear about it, especially if it's a recognizable person, a person that's a notable person, celebrity or whatever. You hear about it on the national news. Oh, so-and-so was shot today, and then suddenly we're talking about gun control laws again. But what people don't know is that 90 million Americans who own over 300 million guns killed no one last year. You won't hear that on the news, but that's significant.
Wow. Jan brought me a present from Texas.
Oh. Gun.
This is who she is.
Let me say this. There are millions of Americans out there who own guns who understand the real reason behind this Second Amendment. And that is that in the 20th century alone, folks, over 170 million people were annihilated by their governments after being disarmed. So you see, when I said earlier in the show, it's about control.
Sure.
This is a right. This is a God-given right. It's not a right from the government. It is a God-given right that we have to protect ourselves, to defend our homes. So,
Okay, but I guess that kind of begs the question, if the government is trying to take away that right to bear arms, then what do you feel is actually a hidden agenda that they're trying to accomplish? Besides just control, is there something more to it?
It's not just the
That's it.
government. It's not just the federal government in the United States. This is an issue. Are you familiar with the UN Small Arms Treaty?
Absolutely.
Okay. That is, our president has already said he will sign that. And that is not about military weapons. The UN Small Arms Treaty is about weapons of personal defense. Absolutely. So people in this country, our administration should absolutely not support the UN Small Arms Treaty, and people need to understand, you need to get educated on what it is, read up on it, so you can take a stand and call your congressman and let them know that you do not favor this, because even though it's a UN treaty, it does affect our Second Amendment rights.
So then ultimately then, but what do you think it is that they're afraid of? How come they don't want everyone to have a gun? Because I'm sure it's not because they think we're going to kill our neighbor. Why does the government not want everyone to be packing?
I think different people have different reasons.
Control.
Okay.
Different people have different agendas.
Socialism.
Some people truly feel the way you do. There's a fear factor. It's, you know, the American people, if we get rid of some of the guns, maybe the crime rates will fall. I know that there are a number of liberals out there who really honestly believe that. But statistics have proven that that's not true. Cities that have the highest gun control laws have the highest crime rates. And likewise, cities and states that have the least amount of gun control laws are the most safe, have the lowest crime rates. So the statistics themselves prove our point.
But what about when it comes to, I mean, legitimately, people wanting to protect children? Because oftentimes you do hear of children sometimes shooting each other because mom and dad did not have it locked up. So, I mean, understandably so, we do want to protect children and teenagers.
Yes,
But don't the adults have to be responsible
That's right.
with their firearms, and they have to keep them locked, and they can't be careless. They can't keep them loaded anywhere that a child can get them. But that's an adult issue.
Yes, it is.
And training the
And
children.
just like people who blame guns for the crime, guns don't kill people.
The people do.
kill people.
Yeah.
So you know, it's one of these issues that I'm really passionate about, and most of the folks that are on my Facebook page feel the same way. And we want the right not only to own handguns but to own assault rifles. You know, Clinton got on this kick about the banning assault rifles, and the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton has been talking about that once again. The reason we feel that we should have the right to own assault rifles is because if it comes down to it and we have to protect ourselves from the federal government, you know, the bad guys are always going to be armed with the assault rifles, the serious weapons. You cannot compete against, you can't defend yourself against someone with an assault rifle if you don't have one yourself.
But what kind of a situation would we be in that we'd actually have to defend ourselves against the federal government?
Oh.
Yikes.
You know, I had to ask. I mean, come on.
Oh, that's scary.
Could I resist?
You know, there are lots of theories out there. Hope it never happens, Jenny.
Okay.
Hope it never comes
When
to
you
that.
think of Fast and the Furious, that's one issue that is supposedly a second. And
Okay, and before we go, I'm going to make sure you understand. In the
Yeah.
opening of the show, you were
Yeah.
holding the gun like this. You should
Okay.
always hold it like this
Okay.
until you're ready to fire.
All right.
Then you put your hand on the trigger, right?
I have to admit something, and I'm mortified. I'm from Texas. We're from just a few miles away from each other. When we were kids, I've never fired a gun. So
We're
that's
gonna change that.
That's going to be an episode
Well,
of
yeah.
PolitiChicks
We're gonna have a range
very,
day with the
very soon.
PolitiChicks,
And I'm
for
sorry,
sure.
Mom and Dad. My family's mortified. Okay. And
The important thing to keep in mind is the fact that since the election of Barack Obama, he has done more for increasing gun sales. But there has been more sale of guns in this country than ever in the history of America, and there's a reason for that. So, and there's a reason that she's wearing a T-shirt now that says "This chick is packing" because more women
Yes.
are packing these days.
And
They're-
you
they're
can
buying
buy
guns.
this T-shirt right here on PolitiChicks.tv. We're going to do more episodes about this. This is really, really an important issue.
You're being fair.
But that's it
Absolutely.
for today. Thank you so much for watching. We're PolitiChicks, the right kind of PC.
Bye.